Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
He's in the building!
Drink the moment. Drink it.
I said empty your mind.
Coquettish and coy. Ow. Ow.
What?
And there's people that are dying.
The wickedly talented.
More than great. It was historic.
Crack is
Work.
Oh, good for you.
I have to apologize.
One of the hottest.
Welcome back to The Reheat, a podcast that re-examines the wildest celebrity news and scandals of yesteryear and asks, how would we react to the same events if they transpired today? I'm Sadaf.
And I'm Sarah Sahagian.
And this week spells yet another hot off the press.
Hot off the press is when we do a mini-sode on whatever is concerning us right now, the current headlines. And so, what is more zeitgeisty than perhaps the only monocultural show left in existence, the White Lotus? So, unless you're living under a rock, the White Lotus chronicles very fancy people, the VIP guests of the fictional White Lotus hotel chain. That is really just the Four Seasons because it's always shot out of Four Seasons. But anyway, willful suspension of disbelief. This past week for us, HBO aired its finale. By the time you hear this, you lovely people, it will be over a week. So we feel like we can use spoilers in this conversation because y'all have had a long time to watch this episode.
Plenty.
But in the murderous finale, some of our fan favorites died, including lovers Rick and Chelsea. That was very sad. And it was definitely, on a cynical show, the darkest finale I think they've ever had. I mean, rest in peace, Tanya. It was very sad when she died. But in this particular finale, not only is her husband, Greg Gary, still alive and well and living with his much younger girlfriend, Chloe, despite the fact that Belinda from season 1 spots him, figures out he murdered his wife, he pays her a very small percentage of the money that he got from his inheritance, and he gets to live forever in Thailand. And if you look that place up, the house he was living in rents for $14,000 a night. So,
Holy.
it's a very interesting choice. What did you think of the finale, Sadaf?
Oh my God, I have so many thoughts. First of all, I love this show so deeply. If there was a show that I could have written, it would be this one. I think Mike White is a genius and so funny. And I know there's been, this season has been very polarizing, but I've thought that every episode has been just beautiful and the writing has been so fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do feel a little bit split on the finale. I agree that it's definitely much darker than any other episode of this show, which I don't mind. However, I don't know, it left me wanting, but I'm not quite sure what I was left wanting. Rick and Chelsea, I adored. They were probably my favorite group that was on the island or that was on the resort. I know that they're very problematic and there's a lot of talk about if he actually even loved her, XYZ, but I just really enjoyed them. I think those two are just such great and quirky actors. I'm obsessed with them, and also the potential rumors that they might have had an affair offset. I'm obsessed, but I have to say I was really, really destroyed after their killing off. It was devastating. Sarah, what did you feel about it?
I found it devastating. I also found it an interesting choice because this is a season that's supposed to be an explanation, sort of an exploration of spirituality, right? And religion. They're in Thailand. There's a lot of discussion of Buddhism, right? I mean, Piper, the Ratliff daughter, is flirting with moving into a Buddhist monastery. In the end, she decides she doesn't want to. I actually thought that was really funny and well done and realistic when she spends the night and then it just comes out and tells her mother, the food wasn't organic. There was no air conditioning. Actually, I am a princess. And then just Parker Posey, the look on her face, it was so funny. She's so happy when her daughter is just like, I can't do it. I am a princess. I want to go buy designer bags in the gift shop. Like, she's just so happy.
Yeah.
And that's a great performance by Parker Posey. Like
So
an
good.
amazing performance.
She might have been the banner. I mean, listen, it's such a good cast. They're all fucking phenomenal, but I think Parker definitely comes out on top. Also, because her character, I feel, is so her. But I have to say, for that little bit, I also loved it. I think that's actually the most practical thing that character had her children do or said to her children, to go spend a night there. It was genius. I feel like that's something my mom would say. And
my
it
mom
worked
too.
beautifully. Yeah, it was great.
She's actually, what I took from that is she's not a bad parent. I think at the beginning, you sort of feel like, okay, this woman is always out of it. She doesn't seem to know what's happening, but she understands her 3 children, right? Like this woman gets it and gets how to raise them. And in her head, she's like, I don't want like 2 weeks into this to have to fly to Thailand to rescue you because this is not right for you. So you go prove to me that you have the fortitude, that you can do it. Otherwise, no thank you. I'm not dealing with this crisis, right? I've raised you to be a little bit spoiled. And now you think you can just go and be a monk? Like, if you can, great. But if not, like,
I know
I'm not going to go rescue you.
It's going from one extreme to another was ludicrous. And Piper is definitely, each season there's a character who in the beginning you think you can root for and who is maybe the most clearest eyed. She was definitely that one because it becomes very apparent very quickly that, oh no, she's one of them too. There's no difference. But the thing that I also really love is because by the end of this episode, of course, again, millionth spoiler alert, like just don't listen to this episode if you have not watched the finale yet. But the Ratliffs, of course, realize that their father has defrauded their business, their family. They've got no money. And Mike White said in an interview, which I thought was really hilarious, he pretty much implies that, oh yeah, well, Victoria will probably go off and just marry another rich man. Like, she is not going to live that life. She's going to refuse. And I love that. I find that very hilarious because I completely co-sign it. Good for her. She knows what she needs in this life to live well.
Well, what he did was a particular betrayal to her because when you're married, it's joint assets. So actually, what he did was on a feminist level, and I know Mike White's a man, and so he's never been a wife. But on a feminist level, I actually took real issue with him not telling his wife sooner. The fact that he'd done this at all with their joint property, it is a real serious betrayal. She raised the kids. She clearly actually is a good parent because she knows her children well. She knows the test to give Piper. So she kept their end of the bargain, right? Like that, she clearly feels, and this is why she was trying to convert all the kept women into wives in North Carolina, that, I mean, her life is not so different from the life of an escort, right? She wasn't judging those women. She was just like, go find the respectable version of this, where you're the wife, where you get social cachet, where you have community property, right? Like, she's basically trying to convert them into just what is, as she views it, more practical, right? Go do this for money as someone's wife, right? And I think in her mind, she's like, I stayed beautiful. I raised your 3 kids. I know them, so I know how to sort of steer them in the right direction that's best for them as people. I don't embarrass you at parties. I do all the things you ever asked for me. So that would be a serious betrayal if the one thing she asked for was, and this guy did not come from nothing, was just to use the wealth and privilege he came from to maintain a certain standard of living. They don't even live in that expensive a state. They live in North Carolina. It's not as hard to be rich in North Carolina as, say, New York. She's asking to be North Carolina rich. And part of me was like, you know what? I hope she finds another rich man. I hope she gets what she deserves, right? This was a transactional relationship. I think the end is, when he envisions himself killing her so she won't have to be poor. And he says, I love you. I think he really loves her. I'm not so sure she really loves him. I think she loves their life.
I think she loves him, but she loves the life and the money more than him. And you know what? More power to her. At least she's well aware. She's got her priorities straight. Now, one of the other things that I was so fascinated by, to go back to the way the Buddhism was kind of this overarching theme in the show this season, I find really fascinating. I feel like there hasn't been enough conversation around what happens with Guy Talk, who I actually think that was maybe just as, if not more devastating than what happens to Rick and Chelsea, because you can see that coming for them. I love Chelsea, but she should have known what she signed up for. That man was headed toward disaster for a long time. But with Guy Talk, listen, this man was I think, so wonderful and sweet. And he had said in a previous episode, violence is not something he believes in because that does not fall under Buddhism when it comes to resolving conflict. And that's what kept him for so long from being the person who would, know exactly when to shoot that gun, tackle that burglar, like all these things. And in that last moment, we see him take down Rick. He does the quote unquote right thing by quote unquote saving everybody. He gets to be the bodyguard for Shithala, which is what he'd wanted all along. He wins Mook. Keyword here, wins, because Mook is a woman who wants a man who can provide, which, by the way, nothing wrong with that. More power to
She's
her
a
as
Victoria.
well.
She's a Victoria Ratliff.
She's good comparison, absolutely. And so he becomes that guy. We see him slide the shades on Tom Cruise style at the very end, or really David Caruso style. But it broke my heart a little because I thought, okay, well, Guy Talk's gone. Like, this has broken him. He has now become soulless, which was also a running theme. And that made me quite sad. What did you make of it, Sarah?
It did make me sad. You're right. It's all about souls and who can save your soul and who sells out, right? And then Saxon develops the soul, and you see him crying when he falls in love with Chelsea, and he doesn't say anything. He doesn't go and try to interfere with her relationship with Rick, but when he realizes that she loves Rick for some reason, by the end I was team Saxon. But
listen,
really,
may I say that I am a Walton Goggins obsessive and have been for some time. So if we even strip the character aside, I find that man so attractive, receding hairline and all. He's just very charming, Sarah. What can I tell you?
Okay, well, anyway, Chelsea agreed, and then died because of that attraction. It killed her. It was fatal.
And so would I. It would have happened to me too.
Okay. Saxon was an interesting character because in his family, his creepy little brother gives him a hand job. He goes through it. And then he's going to go home and maybe go to jail. Probably not. I feel like his father didn't really give him anything meaningful to do, but he won't have a career. He will have a degree from Duke, as he points out, and they can't take that away from him. I actually think that he's the character I have the most hope for because he can sort of say, okay, I worked for this organization that imploded. I wasn't implicated. I feel like he goes off and he becomes maybe like a high school teacher. He's got the Duke degree. I think maybe he goes and he does something like not... I'm not saying that he's going to go join the monastery, but maybe he does something like where he connects with people and is a little bit more useful.
See, I'm not as optimistic as you. I mean, I do think out of that family, he is the one who actually experiences real growth. And that shot of Patrick Schwarzenegger looking back at Amy Lou Wood and Walton Goggins in that one scene was quite beautiful. On a side note, starting the season, I was not a fan of all the Nepo babies in this season, although I do think Mike White probably did that intentionally, which I love.
Yeah.
I just kept thinking Patrick Schwarzenegger, he's not doing much of a stretch here, the character he's playing, but halfway through the season, I was impressed when his character takes a little bit of a turn. He did a pretty good job, and that final scene with all of them was really lovely. But I don't know if he would go that far, because the other thing I always wonder with White Lotus in general, these people are on a resort, they're away from their real life, they're siloed, and that is kind of like living a fairy tale, whether it goes really disastrously as it tends to on this one or not. So what actually seeps in by the time they go back to their real lives? I do hope that he takes that positive turn and it sticks. I don't know if it would go that far, but even to some degree, even if it's just in terms of how he approaches women, I think would be a success. Or if he gets really into astrology, I would love that.
Why not? Well, what's interesting about this season is the question is essentially, can religion save us, or can spirituality save us? And for some of the characters, it seems like it might be able to, right? I mean, Tim Ratliff he seems at peace, which it's so unfair that the character who's done the most wrong at the start, right? He was already rich and decides to put his family's financial health, even though his son works for him and his wife has no employable skills, at risk. He's the one who has this catharsis. He hasn't really lost anything. In fact, he's gained everything because he's completely at peace and he's in this happy place. And then you almost get the sense that when his family's mad that they're going to lose their material possessions, like, their home, their cars, their security, that he's going to be sanctimonious. Like, we don't need that. Like, when he says something's going to happen and it's okay because we're a strong family, it's like, screw you. Screw you. Like, this is your choice that we don't need these things.
Thank you for putting it that way. I also feel like he got to spend that entire week at the resort living with this reality, whereas the rest of them are just finding out. And
exactly.
listen, even if you're spoiled and privileged, I feel for you if everything is about to change in a second and you didn't see it coming, especially after the trauma of experiencing multiple murders of people that you got to know that
Exactly. And Victoria doesn't even have any more lorazepam. Like, what the hell?
That man
Like,
took it all. Like, okay,
he
you know
took
what?
everything from her.
Tim Ratliff being the most chaotic man on that resort that entire time. My God. And I know so much has been said about baby Ratliff taking the blender and not cleaning it out first. Although I have to say, I think that was, for me, that nastiness is kind of part of the whole thing. I feel like he wanted to be able to get a bit of his brother's leftovers. You can take that sexually if you want, but I think there was a part of that to it. Like, you know, I don't know, sibling dynamics are fascinating, and I applaud Mike White for taking things in such a taboo direction. It was so fun to explore. I wish more shows would do that. I thought it was really fascinating. And Baby Ratliff's line about being a people pleaser was just, I think I was screaming, laughing, applauding while I was watching it. It was incredible. What a line. What did you make of that bit, Sarah?
That just made him seem creepier to me. People pleaser. I want to please you, brother. Anyway, the whole that I can't even with that dynamic. All right. Incest is really hard for me.
He puts his brother on a pedestal. He was trying to live up to what his brother wanted, Sarah.
Was he? Because did he really think that's what his brother wanted? I don't know. I don't think know.
He thought it through. I don't think
so. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the friends. So that speech that Carrie Coon makes at the end, her character Lori makes, about how time gives her life meaning, and they talk about inane shit, but it feels meaningful. That went viral. I saw so many people, from Bachelor alumni to girls I went to high school with, posting that. And then they post the speech with pictures of themselves and their friends. And and I don't want to rain on anyone's parade. If anyone really found like that speech was meaningful and spoke to them, I am happy for you. It did not work for me. How did you feel, Sadaf?
Wait. Follow up. Why did it not work for you?
Because all she's saying, time gives my life meaning. I'm like, well, time's inevitable. It doesn't give your life meaning. It just puts you closer to death. It just marches onward, right? Jesus. So it's a law of the universe. It's not a belief system, unless my only belief is that time is a fact and time will come for us. So she just didn't really give me enough about how hanging out with them did feel profound, right? Because she never has a single moment where you get the impression that she does find it profound. I mean, she sees her friends take a selfie in the pool. It makes her smile. There's a difference between that and feeling like you were talking about something profound. So if she just said, like, you know what, overall, I find you guys amusing. We put up with each other's bullshit. You won't turn on me. I like that. But just time in and of itself was not enough. And also they hadn't ever connected. Not once. They all hate each other all the time.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit in both camps, I have to be honest. So I did not find it as moving as the rest of the world seemed to. I did think it was a really gorgeous monologue, and Carrie Coon is just so phenomenal.
Yes.
If you haven't watched The Leftovers, this is a good time to do that. I really liked it, and it's actually the one bit of dialogue that's really stayed with me, because I actually did find it meaningful and quite beautiful. However, I do think it was still sad, because what she's saying is there's no other part of her life that's really given her enough meaning and purpose and moved her in such a significant way. And when she looks at what's left out on the table, it's like, okay, well, we've maintained these relationships after all these years. Clearly that means something. And I do think it does. I think if you have friendships that you've been able to maintain for that many years, clearly there's something to it. But she also can't say what that is, as you point out. And I think that's a concern. And I also think I do wish that there had been something else in her life that she'd been able to find that gave her a little bit more. I thought that was a little unfortunate. And when she wraps it up and tells Michelle Monaghan, like, okay, you've got a beautiful face, and she tells Leslie Bibb, you've got a beautiful life, I'm like, well, wait, you do too, Carrie, though, don't you? Or do you not? And does Michelle not have more than a beautiful face? Like, I don't know. I thought that was
That was
really
a burn.
interesting. Yeah.
Without her, it sounded like a compliment, but it's like, I love your beautiful face. Your whole life is a mess otherwise, but good for you. You're pretty. And then to her other friend, like, actually, I feel like you've made it. You seem self-actualized. I'm happy for you.
So I'm in both camps. I do think time can give something profundity, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that what she was saying was not entirely a positive, beautiful statement. I think it was a bit sad. I think she's left wanting, and that makes me quite sad. I don't know. Which, by the way, I want to make one comparison, because throughout the season, it's her character that is the most vibrant, the most alive, and that doesn't seem to click in her soul, even into that last final moment. And I thought that was a little bit heartbreaking, that she doesn't even see that her personality, she has a beautiful personality. What about that?
Yeah, why couldn't they say something nice about her, like, at all? They couldn't think of one nice thing to say to this woman, like, you have a beautiful sense of humor, or your daughter's really beautiful, or like just anything about this woman. And that's what kind of annoyed me and rankled me also about the scene, because they clearly don't really have that much of a connection in the end.
I'm so with you. And you know what I kept thinking was that, please don't tell me you are each other's best friends after all these years, because then you really don't know how good friendship can be, because this ain't it. Like, it gets way better if you really put the time and effort into finding that. But maybe that's part of the message, that they clearly didn't do that. These are women who focused more on marriage and having children, and maybe like these twisted politics that Leslie Bibb's character has, or surface things like Michelle Monaghan's character. But I do think that monologue has something to it. But I'm with you. I don't think it's the saving grace. I really, really don't. But I have a question for you. A lot of people have been saying they feel like this is the weakest season of The White Lotus. How do you feel, and what ranks as your top favorite?
It's the weakest. Because I think Mike White had the least to say about spirituality. I don't mind the fact that spirituality saves some characters and not others. I don't mind that some have epiphanies and some don't, right? Frank joins a monastery. Piper says, this isn't for me. I don't mind, because that's the way religion is. It saves some people and not others. Some people genuinely feel saved by it, and other people just, even if they try, there's nothing for them in religion. And that's kind of the human condition, right? That is the nature of spirituality and wrestling with it. You'll have your moment where you'll wrestle with your spiritual identity, and you'll come to the conclusion that either it's for you or it isn't for you, or maybe you're mildly spiritual or mildly religious. Maybe you are so religious you want to join a monastery, right? There's a spectrum, and I didn't mind the spectrum of results at the end. It didn't even bother me that some of the people who were saved by spirituality were some of the people I felt were least worthy of it, like Tim Ratliff. Where I was like, you're such a jerk, and yet you have this spiritual enlightenment now that's going to be your comfort and it's going to save you, and you've caused so much suffering, so much for no reason, right? You didn't need to do this. You were already rich. Like, it's just such a jerk. So that didn't bother me. But I just felt like he had the least to say. I felt like it was the least interesting. This last season, he said the whole theme was sex and lust. And I felt like he had a lot to say there. And also he had a lot to say about pragmatism and how, I mean, like the Megan Fahey character, whose whole approach to marriage is do what it takes to feel okay with it. Right? Like, just that should be your approach to life. Like, if you're betrayed, betray a little. Just make yourself feel okay. And I felt like that was really summed up well. All of the characters who developed a more pragmatic attitude at the end, pragmatism saved them. And I liked that. And then season 1 was just so interesting and unexpected, right? I mean, I don't even know if it had a cohesive theme other than the rich people can get away with doing whatever they want and they'll always win, right? Just rich people win. But because it was so unexpected, the first impression I got watching it will always be something I remember, and I'll always rank that highly. But I still think the Sicily season is number 1. First one, number 2, and this one, number 3 for me. What about you?
Yeah, last season was just, I don't know, I think it was a masterpiece. I don't think there was one bit that I didn't think highly of. It was so gorgeously done. Like I want to rewatch it soon. I thought it was so beautiful. You really said everything I wanted to say. But you know what? And I know this is controversial, and I'm still thinking this over because I feel like this finale is still ruminating in my mind. But I don't know. I might put this one as my second.
Okay.
Yeah, I think also because for the same reasons you put the first season as your second, that's why I'm going to put it as my last, because I feel like it was the first one. I don't know that it had as much of a cohesive theme, really. But for this one, I feel like I see what he was trying to do. And you know what? I'm going more by how I felt after each episode rather than by season's end, because each episode I thought was gorgeous. Like, I just loved the writing, and the cast is unparalleled. It was so incredible. And I think, unfortunately, Mike White was trying to do too much. I think there were too many plot lines trying to happen, and I think he was trying to strip down the idea of spiritualism a little more than he needed to. For instance, and again, this is just a theory, but I feel like Rick and Chelsea were meant to be these really stripped down black and white symbols of, as she puts it, hope and pain. And he very clearly is this idea of what happens when you don't just surrender and let go, and instead you let the pain and this trauma rule your life. I think that's a great thing to show.
Yeah.
But it was so I don't want to say on the nose, but I think it could have been a little more graceful. For instance, I think that final reveal about that man being his father was a bit laughable. I mean, by that time you've predicted it. It doesn't, there's no time to sit with it. It just is unnecessary. So I think maybe even one more episode would have even helped. I just think it was too much happening. But again, I'm judging it episode by episode. I thought it was lovely. I will say, though, I have a feeling they're going to do the next season at a winter resort, and I really hope that happens, because I think that would be a beautiful shift.
Who is going to stay at a White Lotus now? Like, let's just think about this for a second, okay? If you can stay anywhere, you have $1,500 a night for a hotel room, okay? Why are you going to the one where everyone gets murdered? They can't keep this out of the headlines,
Sarah,
because
you know that the people who go to the White Lotus are not the brightest. They certainly don't have self-awareness. They maybe not even know all of that stuff. They feel protected anyway by
rich people would know this. Rich people would know that there is a luxury resort where you're getting murdered, right? I mean, and especially because Michelle Monaghan's character is supposed to be a famous actress, and she witnesses a murder. Like, that's going to be in the tabloids. There's going to be a podcast about that. So at this point, I don't think there's a financial future for this hotel. I want that to be interrogated in the next season. Like, they're trying to rebrand, right? Or they're investing more in ski holidays as part of their rebrand. I also think he's mentioned, Mike White, I believe, that he wants one season to take place at a political convention.
Really?
Which I think would be fascinating. And also I can see them needing a deal. So they'd be like, let's go to this 5-star hotel that's had some bad press. They'll give us a deal on our block of rooms.
That's a phenomenal idea. I just want to go to the Swiss Alps or just somewhere wintry. That's all
Don't
I
we all?
ask.
Don't
Yeah,
we
I want
all?
to see some stunning diva bitch covered in furs being nasty. That's what I want. And I want a good hotel manager.
It could take like some Whistler, because the Canadian dollar is down. So honestly,
Sarah,
I feel like
Whistler's
that's the most
hardly
affordable.
exciting. But yeah, if it's stepping in for something else, I'll take it. Okay, should we take a quick commercial break?
Sure.
And we're back. Okay, Sarah, to cap off this episode, I say we each take a couple of minutes and pitch another new show that we're really loving and that we highly recommend to our listeners, because now the White Lotus is over. What you gonna watch? We have a couple of recommendations.
I know.
Sarah,
what do you watch?
Well, I highly recommend The Pit. I have devoured it. It also just wrapped up, so you've got a whole season sitting there to watch. If you were a fan of ER, you will love this, because not only does it bring back Noah Wyle, who is Dr. Daddy. I mean, my God, this man is handsome, and he is as good as Jeremy Strong is in Succession. I really think he's giving one of the greatest performances, and Not only that, he's writing, he's producing. John Wells is producing again, as he did with ER. The way that this show works is each episode is 1 hour in these doctors' day shifts working there. We stay in the emergency room, we never leave it. So even if there's a relationship happening, it's like very brief moments that you catch, like in the hallway or something. It's really delicious. It really touches hard on the mental health impact on healthcare workers when they're dealing with any kind of huge event, whether it's the pandemic or something else that does happen in the season. Please watch. It's really lovely. Sarah, do you have a recommendation?
Okay, so my first recommendation is Win or Lose, which is actually Pixar's first miniseries that they debuted on Disney Plus. It's excellent, and it's something that you can watch with kids, but there's also a lot for adults. So it follows a co-ed softball team in the championships. So it's the lead up to their championship game. So you go home with the star player, the coach, the teacher who's the umpire, and it explores all of their emotional issues and all of their turmoil through deep metaphors.
Yeah.
For example, the teacher who's the umpire has intimacy issues. He has an ex-girlfriend at the school to whom he felt he couldn't really commit, even though he wanted to. And anytime he tries to connect with people, he's covered in armor. This armor comes down. So it's actually quite beautiful. It's a really good way to explain symbolism to children because the symbolism's so overt that you can actually discuss it with them. But it's funny, it's touching, it's that Pixar magic, but in a mini series. So I highly recommend that, whether or not you have kids, but especially if you do have kids, it is a great show to sit down and watch with them. I'm just saying, like, Pixar, man, hitting it out of the park. Like, I don't know what your magic formula is, but just keep doing it. You keep making me laugh, cry. I feel the spectrum of human emotions when I watch something by Pixar. And I'm going to say, if you liked Only Murders in the Building, a Shondaland show on Netflix is called Residence. And I don't think this is excellent TV by any stretch, but it is a cozy murder show. Basically, the premise is that somebody has been murdered. One of the staff has been murdered at the White House. It was created by Paul William Davies, and it stars Uzo Aduba as a wonderfully eccentric female detective, kind of with, I would say, Sherlock Holmes level eccentricities. They're different eccentricities, but yeah, she gets to be the eccentric female detective, which is fun. There are a lot of good lines. I laughed out loud at a lot of different moments. There are a lot of your favorites in this, even though I don't think it's anyone's best role. Like Susan Kelechi Watson is in it, and she's always good. This isn't her best work, but she's always good. You've got Molly Griggs. You've got a lot of people. Ken Marino is in it. Like, there's a lot of talent that they assembled for, I think, just a good time. The premise is like this murder happens during a state dinner for the Australians. So like they can't let anyone go until they know who committed the murder. So they have to keep all these Australians overnight at the White House. It's a lot of fun. You could do this while folding laundry or cooking dinner. Like, it, in the classic vein of Netflix, they want you to be doing something else. They don't expect you to be focusing on it. It's not that level of quality. Like, it looks like prestige TV if you give it 75% of your attention. If you give it 100% of your attention, it doesn't look like prestige TV.
I actually started watching that and I really love it. I co-sign everything you just said, and I will add one note that it actually does not even feel like a Shonda Rhimes show. I'm really impressed because, listen, I've enjoyed Shonda Rhimes content, but at some point it has gotten to be a little bit too, let's say, formulaic. This one does not have the usual sanctimonious tone, which I think some of hers can have. It feels very different, not just tonally, but genre-wise. It's like straight comedy. It's really fun. And yeah, I love Uzo in this. She's so good. She's hilarious. Okay, to cap us off, I will add one more recommendation. This one is specifically for you, Sarah. And I think a lot of our listeners will love it, but I know you will love it, Sarah. It's called Happy Face. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, what is this one?
Okay. I think it's criminally underrated. There are only a few episodes in. It's great. It's the new TV show by the Kings, who came up with The Good Wife.
Ooh,
They
I like
also
the
did
Kings.
Evil, yeah, which is I loved Evil, rest in peace. This show is based on the true story of a killer who was called the Happy Face Killer, actually a Canadian killer. And it's about, again, also true, his daughter, who was a makeup artist. She was his daughter, but she was hiding that for a very, very long time. And one day she comes out with the truth, and she ends up kind of being the face of the story. And
Oh.
so this show dramatizes all of that. And Annalee Ashford plays the daughter, and she's always great. Dennis
Oh, yeah.
Quaid plays the killer father. And oh my gosh, the turn this man
I
has
see
taken
that.
at this point in his career. Yeah, I see it. It's oddly fitting. We are a long way from the Parent Trap, and I'm not mad. So there you go. I think that wraps us up for this episode. I want to say a big thank you to all of our wonderful listeners. You can listen to The Reheat for free on the Seeker app. You can also find the show on the Frequency Podcast Network or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to hear more from me, you can find me at _Sadaf Hassan. Sarah, where can our listeners find you?
Listeners can find me on Instagram at Sahakian Sarah. And I'd also like to say thank you to Anthony at Frequency Podcast Network, who did some great audio support for me this week. Thank you very much. If you liked this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe so other listeners can find us too. And if you would like us to keep growing, like we would like to keep growing, we would love for you to support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thereheat, where we've got some goods in store for you. Thanks for listening.